Welcome, everyone, to the Tired of Going Solo? Expand Your Film Fundraising Team workshop. My name is Emily Smart, and I am the Filmmaker Liaison for Filmmaker Success. Now, the woman behind Filmmaker Success is Joanne Butcher, and she will be running the workshop today. Filmmaker Success is all about making movies, making money, and making the world a better place. Joanne Butcher is a consulting producer with over 180 films and series in various stages of development. With a wealth of experience in fundraising and distribution, Joanne has a proven track record of facilitating the sale of numerous feature films and participating in the distribution of 21 features. As an expert in fundraising, Joanne has supported her clients through various channels, including major donors, grants, foundations, corporate sponsorships, and over 40 successful crowdfunding campaigns. She's a newly published author with her book, Getting Your Film Funded, Produced, and Distributed Globally. This book gives you the tools to make your film a success through Joanne's experience working with filmmakers and the steps she takes her clients through with her films. If you want more information about the book, go to joannebutcher.com. And on another note, she is having a book signing event in Miami on Saturday at Books and Books in Coral Gables. I will be posting in the chat more information about that later. Her involvement with organizations such as Brown Girls Doc Mafia, Slam Dance, the Brazilian Film Festival in Miami, and the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival have made her an integral part of the film community. As a funder of Unstoppable, a disability film festival, and a frequent judge at the Forever Foundation, Joanne has dedicated to mentoring and developing the careers of young creatives. Joanne is the go-to consultant for independent filmmakers seeking support with fundraising and distribution. So here she is to start the show.
Thank you so much, Emily. It's interesting when I hear my own bio, it's like, oh yeah, I did that. And I think we have to change at the end the phrase young creatives to not so young creative. So good to see you all. Leo, I was thinking about you this morning. I was like, I got to check in with Leo and see what he's doing, what has been happening. So that's great. Daniel's here. Welcome, welcome. Kana, haven't seen you for a while. Mark and Felicia, and then the fabulous Paris Moore. Paris and I met, I don't know how long ago, on Clubhouse, and we have become really good friends since then. And Yvette, I have not met you before, but very good to meet you. And so, as always, in my workshops, I am talking about fundraising. That's my thing. I talk about fundraising and I help filmmakers raise money. And, I very much see fundraising as helping us implement our vision, right? So we have a vision, it might be for a film. In Daniel's case, it's for a film school. We have a vision. And then the fundraising is what puts all that vision into actuality, into something tangible. So we are going to have a look at building our fundraising team. And I just sent out an email this morning just saying, for a lot of people, they think that that's too advanced for them. They think, and I do agree, I would say this is the most advanced workshop that I teach, but I think that we can start wherever we're at, even if we haven't even begun filmmaking, with creating a vision for building that fundraising team. So that's what we're going to start with today. I just want to say by way of introduction that all my workshops are designed to help filmmakers. And for me, Filmmakers are my favorite people. They're the most creative people, the most hardworking people, the most dedicated, committed, hardworking people. And often filmmakers find themselves stuck. And interestingly, they think, oh, it's my fault. It's like, Joanne, I'm a filmmaker, I'm stuck and I can't get past where I'm stuck. But what they don't realize is that most filmmakers are all stuck in the same 5 or 6 places. And it's got really nothing to do with them personally. It's got to do with these places that everybody gets stuck. And so my work is about trying to help you move forward, no matter how stuck you are, how long you've been stuck. I have a new client who says he's been stuck for 44 years, right? So when we're trying to move forward, no matter what. So if you need to raise money to make your films or your film school, you have come to the right place. My business, Filmmaker Success, is all about raising money, all about raising money. So over the next couple of days, I'm going to work on 5 different stages of building your fundraising team. And I know most of you are at in your fundraising and you're mostly working on your own, but this is about, even if you're on your own today, this is about building the vision of the team you want to create. And then we'll get to some more stages. I have a concept that's in stage 2 that I call diversifying your fundraising portfolio. I just got off a call this morning with some very, very experienced filmmakers and fundraisers. They're a German production team, and they have been raising money for years in Europe. As many of you know, every other country in the world, except for America, has film production money that comes from the government. They're based in Germany, so they've been getting European production funding for a long time. And now they want to do something in America, and they really have no idea how to do it because they only know one type of fundraising, which is international government funding. So we, as you all know, most of you are already my clients, that I teach 7 different ways of fundraising, and I don't even count the way they're fundraising in that. That's another one, that's 8. But so to them, all the ways that we raise money is all new to them. But what I find is very typical of filmmakers and nonprofits is that they tend to work on one way of raising money, and they stick with that one way. And if you could just expand to 2, now you've already doubled your possibilities, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so the stage 2 is diversifying your fundraising portfolio. The third stage is I'm calling it investing in fundraising. Many years ago, I got a job at a very prestigious nonprofit in Oakland called Youth Radio. And Youth Radio trains young people to be broadcast journalists. And they are, I think of them as a darling of foundations. You know, there are a lot of foundations that fund education. The Youth Radio had a special program for young people who were involved in the justice system. You know, there's funding for that. So they had a lot of money from foundations and no other kind of fundraising, or no other kind of fundraising whatsoever. And I saw that in their line item in their budget under fundraising, their budget was 0. So the organization was not thinking we need to invest in fundraising. Yes, they had staff, right? But they weren't thinking, how do we invest in fundraising? So we're going to look at how we can start investing in fundraising. And then the 4th stage, which I think we'll get to tomorrow, is to start by aligning with fundraising volunteers. So before maybe you have the money to pay staff, you can start with fundraising volunteers. So that'll be stage 4. And then the 5th stage is hiring fundraising help. So we'll look at the really adding people into the team tomorrow. And today we'll be doing more of a preparation to have those people on board. In many ways, it's not necessarily time to bring on team until we've laid a certain foundation to be ready to have team on board. So that's what we're going to be doing. And we're going to start now with, I would like to find out, in terms of who is here, who currently has never done any fundraising? Who in the group has never done any fundraising yet? You can raise your digital hand or come on camera. Be lovely if you came on camera, I could see your faces. Thanks, Daniel. Oh, he went away again.
Oh no, yeah, no, sorry, I never do any fundraising. I came from the
You
corporate.
have never done any fundraising. Okay, great. We're going to get started. So everybody else, Yvette, have you ever done any fundraising before? Yvette, can you speak?
Yes, here I am. Sorry.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you. My camera sometimes comes on, sometimes it doesn't. It lags, so I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
But
That's all right.
yes, I've never
Never.
fundraising.
Okay.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Most of the people on here are my clients, so I know what they've done in terms of fundraising already. Right. So thank you for that,
Sure.
Yvette. But that's okay, because you're going to start soon. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, so the first thing that I would like to talk about is vision. So a lot of times I think that people think fundraising is really about tactics, you know, how many people can I ask? How many crowdfunding campaigns can I do? How many foundations can I write to? How many grants can I write? Those are all tactics. But before we get into tactics, I would like to think a little bit about vision. And most of you are working on a specific film right now. And what I would like to think about is, by the end of 2024, how much would you like to raise for your current film? So if you could write down a number, you don't have to share it if you don't want, but how much do you need to raise for your current films? And some of you is films. How much do you need to raise in 2024? But then I'd like to ask you another question, which is, how much do you need to raise in 5 years? So in 5 years, how much do you need to raise? Now, what you might be thinking is, well, I'm going to finish this film and then I'm going to write another one. So it may be that you have another film. Maybe you're somebody who's thinking a film a year that you would like to make. I know that with my clients, I encourage the idea of closing and finishing a film within a year, rather than having multiple years of going into making a film. But think about 5 years. How much would you like to raise in 5 years? It might be for one film, it might be for a series of films, it might be for completely unrelated films. But how much would you like to raise in 5 years? Okay. So what I'm going to do to start, I would like to have all of you meet each other over today and the next 2 days. So I'm going to put you in breakout rooms and start out by sharing your 2024 number that you want to raise in 2024, and then your 2025 number. And we're going to have a discussion about vision after that. So, all right, how many people do I have in to put in breakout rooms? Thank you. Perfect. Okay, we're going to have 2 people in each breakout room. So you're going to share the number that you want to raise in 2024 and the number that you want to raise in 5 years. And please share with your partner. I'm putting you in breakout rooms, and I'm going to leave you to talk for 5 minutes. So you're going to talk about other things. You can talk a little bit about the films, but definitely have 2 numbers. Okay, see you in 5 minutes.
How do we do this? Room 2.
Felicia's at work. Oh, but she went to the room. Yeah, she went into the
Okay,
room.
and Connor. What about Connor?
He just went.
Oh,
Now
Connor
she
just went.
Now just Yvette.
Connor and Mark. Okay, that's a good pairing. Connor and Mark. Yvette has not joined a room. Yvette, are you able to join the room? Yvette? Okay, I'm going to move Paris. Oh no, she went.
Perfect.
Okay, she went. All right.
Pause.
Felicia, you're looking very
Sorry.
lovely.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Leo. I pressed the wrong button.
Some people, it's so funny when you do this breakout room thing, but some people like hold on to the last second because they're talking, which is great. That's kind of the point. It's kind of the point. So everybody's coming back. Everybody's coming back. All right. So yeah, see that they're going down to the final second.
I took all my second.
You took all your seconds.
Even we're not finished, Mike and I were still going at it. So.
Right. No, it's really nice. It's really nice to meet other filmmakers, you know, at these events. So that's great. So all right, now I would like to see, you know, what numbers everybody's coming up with, and I was saying vision is not about tactics, but coming up with a number, setting a goal, setting a vision is really, really significant. You know, I have this little book, and I write my goals in it. And I can put my goals on one little thing like this, or I can fill a whole book about it. So, you know, the vision is something that can really help move you forward, especially when you're stuck. All right, who is brave and would like to share the 24 numbers and their 5 years numbers? What is 5 years? Was that Mike? Or Daniel. Okay, Daniel, no, I'm going to leave you to the end. You're going to scare everybody.
Oh no, it's small. It's small. It's small.
Oh, okay. All right. So what are your numbers for 2024?
Like for 2024 is like 5 million.
Hey,
And what about 5 years?
5 years, I don't want to scare anybody.
I said let's leave you till the end.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Who else wants to share? You don't have to share your numbers if you don't want, but Leo, go ahead. Leo, you're muted. Leo, you're muted.
there we go. So for 2024, I'm at 30,000.
Okay.
And I'm
No,
sorry,
go for 5 years.
5 years, 300,000.
300,000. Okay. And what's the 30,000 for? Which film is that for?
It's for California Shorts. Yes.
All right, great. Just want to make sure I'm on the same page.
Okay, very good.
Who else? Who else would like to share their numbers?
Yeah,
Mike?
this is, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna raise $300,000 this year. And my 5-year goal, I gotta be honest, I'm not clear about it. But the more I have these skills, I believe I can raise $5 million to $10 million.
Okay. Do you have films in mind?
I do. I've got a project on the student loan debt crisis for 1.5 million. I'm going to be hired on another project that's going to require a $350,000 raise. My own feature documentary was originally budgeted at 3 million. So I could easily come up with $5 million worth of projects.
Right. Excellent. Who else? Who else is brave enough to share their numbers? Thanks for those comments, Emily, in the chat. That's awesome. Barris, go ahead. I'm so excited to see you. Normally we get to hang out on Clubhouse and I don't get to see you. So this is great. All
Yeah,
right.
it is nice to see you outside of Clubhouse. And I'm really excited to hear your wisdom.
Thank you.
So you already know I'm working on at least 2 projects that you already know. The Harlem Hellfighters and the African American inventor, Lewis Latimer. And they're 2 totally different budgets. We're talking like 2 totally extreme. One is 30 million, of which, we have some high heel friends that we go to. And that fundraise is a little different than other fundraising, and to tell you the truth, when you do it that way, you really don't understand how to fundraise any other way. You're just used to talking to people who have money and kind of convincing them to invest in you. But it leaves you bereft of skills of how to invest in all the other ways of which I need to learn. You know what I'm saying? Because those friends may say no. Then what happens then? And my other project with Nadine is at the most 5. I don't think we're going to go over 5, but we'll be happy to get like 2 or 3. But I'm capping at around 5. And that's with a different group of friends, mostly indie filmmakers who stay below a certain amount of budget. And so we're going to need to learn a lot of your skills in how to fundraise in many different ways. Oh, and the last thing I did mention, I have a nonprofit. It's 20 years old. I have 1,000 members. It's a New England Film and Video Association. And I am now wanting to expand it, do some fundraising for that. And I want to start, buying equipment, renting spaces so that independent filmmakers can come in and we can collaboratively make films. The idea is to supply them with space, supply them with equipment, and if I can raise enough money, have a crew there. So then indies can come in and we'll make movies together and we're sharing the profits. And I'll get money because I'm training veterans, I'm training at-risk youth, I'm training prisoners who are not prisoners anymore, things like that, and getting grants and monies to train people, give people real skills. And as it grows, I'll also grow my market. So the very people who are part of my program and we're making movies together will also be the people who will possibly buy tickets to see the movie.
What's the budget in 2024 for the organization?
For 2024, we're looking at, for everything together, around 30 million. Well, I mean, it's a continuous thing.
For the nonprofit, though, in 2024, what's
I'm so glad you said the budget. If I can get 1 million for 2024 for the nonprofit, I would be very happy. Though I believe we can get more.
Okay, great. All right, who else? Anybody else wants to share their numbers? For me, this is just super fun. I started realizing this many years ago, that when people tell me about a project, I start seeing a budget, an income budget up in the right-hand corner of my brain. The budget starts to appear as to where the money is coming from. And I don't know when that started, but That's what happens when people talk about projects. Who else would like to share their numbers for 2024 and for 5 years? Oh, Mark, are you unmuted to share? You're unmuted. Mark, can you hear me? Oh, I think Mark can't hear me. Maybe you could write to him in the chat, Emily, and just see, because I can see him, but can't hear him. All right, who else? Anybody else wants to share their numbers? Anybody else? Anybody else? Brave? Oh, Felicia's at work. Yes, yes, yes. 25 this year and 300 for 5 years. I think that's great. I would actually want for you for this film to shorten that time frame down to no more than 2 years, Felicia. So I'd like you to raise 25 this year and 300 in 2 years. About that challenge, yes, right. 5 years is just too long, just too long. There's no reason. All right. So, and anybody else can share whenever they like. So, the way that I think about having a vision of a fundraising team is really that my mantra is no fundraising without training and without support. And so for those of you who are working with me, you're getting the training. And I'm also there as support when you do the fundraising. But you can also have support by working with friends, with colleagues, with other people. I was sharing a story the other day with some of my clients that many years ago when I was working for the YMCA, I was the director of development. In the nonprofit world, development means fundraising. And I was working with at the YMCA, and they had an annual campaign which went for 6 weeks, and we raised our whole fundraising budget in that 6 weeks for the YMCA. And they had been doing it in a particular way for the past 40 years, which was they had hundreds of people who joined in the fundraising, and we were divided up into teams. So because I was the director of development, I was put in charge of a team, and I was randomly given, 6 people, 8 people, something like that for my team. And we were instructed, again, I didn't have to make any of this up. This was in a book. This is how you do it. So everybody who was on the team who had never been on a team before, they were given a minimum to raise of $600. Right? So everybody on the team had a minimum of $600. However, there were people on the team who'd been on the teams for many years. And maybe they could raise $1,200. Maybe they could raise $5,000. Maybe they could raise, whatever. So we worked as a team, and we worked together, and we strategized, and we made our decisions about what we were going to do to raise our money. And I happened to tell one of my friends about this process. And my friend happened to be married to a very, very wealthy man. And every year they sat together as a couple, and they decided where to give money philanthropically. And they were giving about $25,000 a year. And my friend noted that given that his husband was a multi-millionaire, that $25,000 wasn't really quite what he thought was in keeping with the level of wealth that they had, right? So he wanted to learn more about fundraising, and he wanted to be able to get some of those skills. So I put him on my fundraising team, and lo and behold, he won the prize that year for the individual who raised the most money. Of everybody in the Y, all the people who'd been fundraising for years and years and years, he won the prize for the individual who raised the most money. And I'd have to say that the positive end of the story was that a couple of years later, his husband became the chair of an organization called Project Involve, and headed up their capital campaign committee, where they raised, I don't know what it was, $100 million or something like that, for an organization that provided meals for people at home living with HIV and AIDS. So my friend's goal, his vision, was for that they as a couple would become better philanthropists. That was what he wanted to learn how to do. And by being on a YMCA fundraising team, he started to learn some of those skills to do with philanthropy, and they were able to step into really huge leadership roles after that. So when you look at your 5-year number, what I would suggest is that for all of you, the way to think about being able to raise that kind of number is that you're going to need to have a team. You're going to need to have a team in place. You're not going to do this by yourself. You're going to be working with other people. And if you think about that 5-year number and what you're trying to raise, we've already had several people talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. If you had, I like to play my game with my magic wand. If I get to wave my magic wand and you could have anybody on your team that you wanted, who would be on your team? Who would be on your team? So you have these projects that you want to do. You have these big numbers of money that you want to raise. And I've waved my magic wand. Bling! Okay, my magic wand. You can have anybody on your team you want. So who would it be, first of all, the most fun to have on your team? The most fun for you to have on your team, you know? And who would be somebody that could really help you achieve the goals, the vision that you have for your 5-year goal? Who would be the ideal person to be on your fundraising team? Does anybody have any thoughts about that?
Yeah,
Who said yes?
I did.
Daniel, yes.
Yeah, I would say, like, mine, since it's the film school, I think Gail King would be fun.
Gail King, I don't know much about her, but she seems like a lovely person.
Yeah, knows a lot of people, and you don't want. I don't want Oprah. Oprah is already too famous on her own, but you get the best friend, and then the best friend can tell her all about you.
I like the idea of Gail King because she does seem like a really, really lovely person. So that's a good person to have in your team. Anybody else? Who would you like to have on your team? Who would be fun? It could be Auntie Mabel. I've just met people who work with their mother. I've met 2 people. I have a new client who works with her mother. That's Paris's friend Nadine, and I just met somebody last night through Emily from the Heart Productions. It's a mother-daughter team. Who can you think of who would be fun to work with? Anybody else? Paris.
All right, this may sound a little kitschy, but you.
Oh, yay! I will be on your fundraising team. I will be on your fundraising team. That is right. Oh, Felicia gave me a heart with little sparkles. I love those little sparkles. No, that's great, Paris. Yes,
I thought you were already on the fundraising team.
Yes, that's right. I'm already. But Paris, if you think about, oh my gosh, this is really great. Daniel and Paris are both in New Jersey.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What?
Yes,
And we're doing the same work too.
That's right. That's right.
Paris, we gotta talk. We gotta talk. That's the best. I'm like, I thought Paris was somewhere far, but Paris.
No. Your neighbors.
Yes.
So,
right here.
Paris, think about. Think about New Jersey. Think about the work you're doing. Think about the films you're doing. Who would be a really wonderful partner to have on your team, on your fundraising team? I just thought of somebody.
When you said that,
yeah,
I'm thinking maybe somebody from the Fairleigh Dickinson University or university.
Oh,
because as a student in the school, they want me to be successful. And then it could be a feeder program. I can use the students from the school on my projects.
Right.
So that
Oh,
could
I love that.
The head of the film, not films, what do you call that department of the government that makes the film? Every city's got a different name for it.
Yes. The film commission.
Yeah, the production
Commissioner,
yes.
commissioner.
Yes.
If maybe
I'll tell. I just want to tell you a really funny story, because when I talk into a new filmmaker, I sometimes play the magic wand game, and I wave my magic wand, bling, and then we can have anything. And one day I was talking to somebody who became a client, and I have no idea why I said this to him. No idea, because I've never said it before. I've never said it since. I said, if you could meet anybody in Hollywood, who would it be? The reason I don't ask that question is because I don't think about Hollywood. It's not my thing. And instantly he said, Mel Gibson. I said, oh, well, that's very interesting. So we started working together. We had our first session. And I said, you remember you told me it was Mel Gibson? He said, yes. And I said, well, I don't know who is your next door neighbor, but your next door neighbor, who lives opposite my dad's house, is Auntie Celia. And I want you to know that Auntie Celia's brother is Mel Gibson's spiritual advisor. And of course, my client just about fell on the floor and had a heart attack. Then he rushed over to Auntie Celia's house, because he already knew her. He wasn't related to her. I'm related, but he wasn't related to her. But he'd already shot a commercial at her house, so he already knew her. But how is that possible?
Okay, in that vein,
okay.
There is somebody I want to pick. It would be Angelina Jolie, because her experience in Hollywood has been like so many other people, that she was disregarded at times. She couldn't get the support. They didn't take her serious. I mean, she had to fight tooth and nail to get her projects done to be taken serious. And I'm like, she understands. She's the kind of person who, if you had her in her corner, not only is she famous, not only is she beautiful, but I think she's compassionate. I think she has a heart, and she understands the struggle. And I think she's so authentic that everybody would believe her. Like when she says, look, we need to change things and do things a different way. And if she, wanted to help my nonprofit or whatever, and she said, this is a great place for you guys to make films together. I support this. And let's say I make a movie with her, I think that would help a lot, because I think she's a great person.
Did Angelina Jolie direct a movie set in set in the war in, am I making this up? Angelina Jolie directed a movie about women, the Muslim women who were targeted in the war. Oh my God, I can't believe I can't think of the name of the country. But am I saying the right thing? Emily says I am.
I'm not sure.
I thought you were going with a different movie when you said the war. I thought you were going with Unbreakable, I think it was, or Unstoppable. But let me take a look.
Yeah. Anyway, I think she's very interested in politics. That film is one of the, In the Land of Blood and Honey. Felicia got it. Yes. Gold star to Felicia. In the Land of Blood and Honey. So Angelina Jolie directed one of the hardest political movies I have ever seen, which is not what you think of Angelina Jolie, right? But In the Land of Blood and Honey is an extraordinary, painful movie that's really focused on abuse of women, but yeah, I think she's a really great choice. But I'll tell you the name who came to my mind was Daniel Glover. And Daniel Glover does EP movies. He's very interested in Black content. And I saw him twice right before COVID. And when I left San Francisco, I saw him at the little movie theater, the Roxy, which was around the corner from my house. And he was there he EP'd a little documentary, which I don't remember the name of, but it's something night, something evening. And it's about this little town, African-American town. And it's just a very verite style documentary. And what he said was that he was born at San Francisco General Hospital, which is why he was there. He's apparently very connected to San Francisco. But the little town that the documentary was about is in maybe Alabama, or anyway, in the deep South. And Daniel Glover told these stories about driving from when he was a child, driving from San Francisco into the deep South with his grandparents to visit family, and what a profound experience that was. So he's not such a good connection because he's not New Jersey, he's not, right? But that was the name that came to my mind when I thought about your films. Okay, Mark, let's see if we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Great, thank goodness. So the person that I think would be just a heck of a lot of fun to have, it would be your friend Sir Marco.
Oh, okay, Marco Robinson.
Because it never would occur to him that he could fail.
That is so true.
No,
that is so true. Somebody just said the word unstoppable.
Unstoppable, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. Now, he has a very specific business model, which is when you work with him, he has to play a lead role in the film.
Oh, okay.
Which depends. I mean, he's a lovely person, so that's fun. The fun part for sure, you know. But he really, that's his dream in life. His vision is to act in films, to be in more films, star in movies. And so his business model is when he takes somebody on, he wants a lead role in the film. So
what if it's a documentary?
And then the thing, I don't think he would be interested.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think he would be interested. But the thing that, in fact, I was just on a webinar that he did about his film stuff, and he was saying that he's not an A-list actor, but he does have about 2 million followers. So he's not an A-lister, but he does have that marketing bang that we all need for our movies. So I do think he's a good idea. But there are just certain parameters that probably wouldn't work, because you know, the only role you would have for him would be a narrator, and you already have a narrator, right, who is an A-lister.
Yeah.
So tell everybody who your A-list narrator is.
So I'm blessed to have Ali McGraw from Love Story and Steve McQueen and all that. She loves my work. She narrated my first film. We just started recording her for my second film. And she said to me, I said, well, you know, Ali, we got to get you some money. And she said, well, I think it's going to have to be a gift, because if I accepted what you could afford, I'd get into trouble. And if I told you what I needed to get paid, you wouldn't be able to afford it. So she said, so for the rest of your life, you have me free as a narrator.
And boy, oh boy, she shows up for Mark's events. She shows up to the studio. She does recordings. She is a really integral part of his work. And so when he has a screening and they have a big event and he can say, I'm showing up with Ali McGraw, people really love it. Sold out. Yeah, every time. Sold
I have
out.
people that are still angry from 5 years ago that they couldn't get in.
They couldn't get in. People will always say to me, Joanne, what if we sell out? And I'll be like, that would be the worst of your problems. Right. It's great. It's great. Great marketing when you sell out. Okay, Mike.
Okay.
Mike. Oh, sorry.
I'm driving, so I don't have my camera on. But
Okay.
what I learned in the last week is that Warren Buffett has 3 children. He gave them each $1 billion to spend it philanthropically. One of his kids live an hour away and has an interest in the next project I'm working on. It's a Native American project. And I have 3 people who can get to him. They know him. And so they have set up foundations where they have to spend money. So he'd be one of the first people I'd put on my board or my team.
Very nice, very nice. Now, what's the topic of that film?
This is on the. I haven't introduced it to you just yet, but I am thinking of. I want to get it to you, Joanne. This is called Fort Nassau, which 400 years ago was the first Dutch Native American World Trade Center, which today is known as Albany, New York. And this was the big bang for our country. And it was 10 years of peace, which was 10 years of prosperity, which then led to the creation of the city, the island at the center of the world, also known as Manhattan. And it was out of this trade deal at Fort Nassau that everything else derived. All the other English settlements failed.
Right. So something about history and something about, nice. So the one thing about that particular person that, we're thinking about celebrities, then the celebrity brings more media attention, whereas there would be less, I think, with the Buffett person. Not that there's anything wrong. I mean, but especially if you have 3 people who know them. But why would they not be interested in the current movie?
Oh, that's a good question. His focus is on upstate New York where he lives, and the second project is dead square on right where he lives.
I see, and because I'm so geographically challenged. So your current movie is not upstate New York? I thought it was.
Not in this particular area, but it is considered upstate New York. But upstate New York is 5 hours wide from Albany to Buffalo.
I see. Right. Okay.
But maybe.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I'll hear more.
Yes. Does anybody else want to play the "Who Can I Have on My Team" game? The magic wand is still in effect. So hey.
I do.
Leah. Oh, Yvette, please. Let's play the game.
Yeah, sure. Viola Davis. She has Judy
Viola
Productions.
Davis.
Yeah, she has a production company, and I know her a little bit, not best friends or anything, but we have mutual friends. So, and I have a few projects that I have in mind that I was thinking of, maybe I'm a writer, I'm a screenwriter. So that's why this is all new to me about raising money for films. I really want to produce. And so that's why I'm so green. I'm just trying to take it all in today. But
you are in the right place.
Yeah,
you're not so green that you didn't find the right place.
Right, exactly. Yes. I was led. But inspired. But yes, so Viola Davis, I just, she's, A-list, and she has a great production company. So
yes. And where are you located, Yvette?
I'm in Los Angeles. I'm here in LA.
And where is she? Is she in LA?
She's here. She's in LA.
Okay. And do you have any knowledge about her philanthropic work?
Not really. Not I think she may have, I know she has a production company, but I'm not sure as to what she does philanthropically. But I really don't know.
Right. So in all of these cases with Mike already knows that the Buffett Jr. is funding in that very local area. So Daniel is going to start doing research on Gayle King, and Paris is going to start doing research on Angelina Jolie. And the reason I brought up that Angelina Jolie directed that movie is because Angelina Jolie's political interests are out there for the world to see, right? But one of the things that fundraisers do, and this is part of the work of being a fundraiser, is a lot of research on somebody's giving history. And I actually, I'm just going to mute you, Yvette, while I move into this next section. Yeah, I was just speaking to a fundraiser yesterday. I'm going to be on his podcast, and he was talking about when he started out in the fundraising world, that he focused on going to nonprofits with a company that did investigation into people's stock holdings. Can you imagine? So you can find out what everybody's stock holdings are, and then know how to design your ask or built around that. That is the kind of information that professional fundraisers access to be able to know who to ask and who to talk to. So now that we've had a vision, right, whoever this person is, I told Mark some information about Marco that he doesn't know. I told Paris some information about Angelina Jolie that I think is very important. But with everybody, we can start doing research. Now, you may not be able to access information about their stock holdings, but you can find out, I think LexisNexis, you can find out what property they own. You can find out who they support in terms of politics, who they give money to in terms of which party they give to. You can find out which nonprofits they give to. So you can find out all kinds of information about somebody's giving history and their interests, right? One day, Mike said to me, well, people give their money to the kittens. And I thought that was great. But so there are definitely people in the world for whom you hear about it all the time. Somebody dies and leaves millions and millions of dollars to a home for a shelter for dogs, right? That doesn't make any sense to me, because for me, all my interest is about human beings. But there are people who would give every penny they have to animals, right? There are people who would give every penny they have to preserving democracy. There are people who would give every penny they have to the Republican Party, right? Everybody has their particular interests and what they give to. And so we just did a little playful imagining, visioning of somebody, but now we can actually do the research on that person, you know, and maybe Daniel's researching Gayle King, and in his research, he finds out, oh, but there's this other person who really fits because they like New Jersey and they like education and they like, right? So as you start looking, you're going to want to create, you know, find a match. And if you find out that Gayle King likes to fund kittens, okay, maybe she's not the person for us, right? I don't think that's true. But Paris, what's your question?
Are there people who you may say you don't want on your team? I was thinking of Taraji after The Color Purple. She was talking about her pay and the discouragement and the disparage of how women are getting paid and Black women are getting paid. And I see her as an advocate. And
yeah.
I did think about her. She was really, really one of my first choices. But because of the political situation right now, is that good and or bad? So I'm curious, can that also be a detriment if they're outwardly political and how that might affect them?
I don't know how political it is to say that Black women should get paid the same as everybody else. I'm sorry. But no, I mean, yeah, you know, you have to make your decisions and make your choices. You know, might be a great time to reach out to Taraji. You know, she might really appreciate being asked to get involved in something. And I'm not sure, but you know, that all that stuff is, I don't know. I was watching the news one day for 5 minutes, and it just so happened I turned it on right in the moment when Fani Willis walked into the courtroom to start giving her testimony, and I ended up watching it for hours. And the next day I heard all these people saying, how dare she behave like that? And I was like, what?
Exactly. I was so surprised too. I mean, why are you
Sorry,
getting
Emily.
with a good point?
I was just, you know, and then over the next few days, it turned out that men had one response to her and women had a very different response. You know, so, but I think that that question is a great question. It's also comes down to, for example, I'm going to look for a corporate sponsor for a movie that deals with the environment. You know, am I going to go to Patagonia or am I going to go to Chevron? Right? There is money that's bad. You know, now Chevron might really want to fund a movie that's about the environment because they want to wash their image, right? That happens a lot where companies want to wash their image, you know, but so you just have to make your decisions about something like that. That's a great question. All right, I'm going to move on to stage 2, and I'm just wondering if we should have a little break. Let's just take a little 10-minute break and come back in 10 minutes. And we're going to move on to stage 2, which is diversifying your fundraising portfolio. So we're going to get into some tactics. But let's take a 10-minute break and we'll come back. Well, we'll come back at 2:45. How about that? 2:45. See you in 10 minutes. Oh, that must mean Emily's back as well. Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, hi, Anita. Good to see you. Looks like you're driving. Looks like you're driving. Okay, good, good. Good to have you. Okay, so stage 2, diversify your fundraising. So I was telling the story today about the filmmakers I met this morning, and that they know how to raise money in one particular way, but they don't know how to raise money in any other way. And so the way I see that as a fundraiser is they're leaving money on the table because they're not choosing all the different ways that you can raise money. However, it's very natural that you could imagine, you know, hey, I can set aside 8 hours a week to fundraise. I'm going to focus on my one thing. You know, I could see that's a natural thing. And individuals do it and nonprofits do it. And so it's kind of across the board. But it basically means that you're leaving money on the table. So how do you go from one type of fundraising and expand it to more types of fundraising? That's what I'm saying is like the next step. So I said to these people today, again, they're a German film team. I said, have you ever worked on an individual donor campaign? And they said, oh, you mean crowdfunding? Now, I separate donors, individual donors, into 2 types of donors. Crowdfunding is the way to reach small donors. So the most common numbers that people give in crowdfunding campaigns is $50, $75, or $100. Okay. And so when we go for donors who we're reaching in a crowdfunding campaign, it's what we think of in fundraising as the bottom of the pyramid. So in a pyramid, at the bottom of the pyramid, there are your donors who give $50, or even less, but the most common numbers that people give in crowdfunding is 50, 75, and 100. So maybe you can get 100 donors at that level. If you can get 100 donors, you can raise $10,000. And right by now, I have had clients run over 40 crowdfunding campaigns. The numbers are so exact, I just can never believe it. But when my client goes over $10,000, they have 101 donors, they have 98 donors, they have, it's absolutely exact every single time. So we start out going after donors in a crowdfunding campaign, but then we look to see how many of those donors we can leverage to turn into major donors. So what's a major donor? Well, for everybody, it's different. So for Felicia, who's raising $30,000 this year, was that her number? 25,000 was Felicia, right? I didn't write it down. She could do that in one crowdfunding campaign, right? $25,000. For $25,000, if it takes 100 people to get to 10,000, it takes 200 people to get to 20,000. It takes 25 people to get to 25,000. No, I said that wrong. 250 people to get to 25,000. So you're going to need to convert out of however many people you're able to communicate with. You're going to need to convert 250 into giving something, right? So for $25,000, that I would say a crowdfunding campaign would be a great way to go. And Felicia's making a documentary that deals with history, deals with the civil rights movement, deals with South Carolina history. And so there are ways to reach out to people beyond who she knows personally to be able to raise that $25,000. But out of the people who give to that $25,000, there are probably 1, 2, 3, 4 people who we can turn into major donors. So usually when I'm working a crowdfunding campaign with somebody, we're looking to raise that beginning money. It's a great way to raise starter money, but also to identify some major donors. Now, everybody's different. So for one person, a major donor might be $500. But for another, like I have my client, Thomas Allen Harris, who I'm always talking about, for him, a major donor starts at $25,000. Mark Gordon has clients not clients, donors who've given $25,000. So are you having trouble hearing me, Emily? No, okay. One of the things that happens, I see, is that fiction filmmakers think the only way to raise money is crowdfunding, and documentary filmmakers think the only way to raise money is writing grants. But both are missing opportunities. I often tell this story that I was hired by Brown Girls Doc Mafia, which is a support organization for women documentary filmmakers of color. And I was hired to consult on 5 different film projects with 5 different filmmakers. And each of the filmmakers had already raised about $100,000 in grants. Usually it was one grant that they had gotten the money for. And so I would be there for my session to talk to them. And I was very impressed that they had been able to get a grant for $100,000. That's already great. Not one of them had raised any money from individuals, except for one. I think one person had gotten a $1,000 donation. None of the others. Not only had the others not received any money from individuals, they hadn't even thought to ask. And this group of very experienced filmmakers that I met today, the German team, same thing. Never crossed their mind to ask. They know all kinds of famous people and whatever. Never thought to ask. And one of the things that I've learned very early in my fundraising experience is if you don't ask, you don't get. There is no getting money if you don't ask for it. So a crowdfunding campaign is a great, and everybody on this call can run a crowdfunding campaign, and it's a great way. You're all making feature films. It's a great way to, even if you start at $20,000, $25,000, it's a great way to put some money in your pocket. And it's a great way to start getting the word out about your film, you know, and letting people generally know about your film. Mark has a newsletter that he sends out, and he lets people know he's doing a crowdfunding campaign. I think he's done a crowdfunding campaign each year for the last 3 years, but that's putting money that has, you know, that he can use for his filmmaking in his pocket. So all of you can do that. But even my super beginner filmmakers have been able to leverage those crowdfunding donors into major donors. And I'll give you one example. Years ago, I had this very young lady. She and her friend were making their first short film, and it was an animated short. So, you know, animation is always a bit expensive. And they set out to raise $25,000. And I was a little concerned about this because they were very young. They didn't have a big network, you know. So anyway, they raised their $25,000. Oh, and by the way, they raised 50% of it on day one. So pretty amazing. And two of the donors, they didn't know, but they were connected to them through an organization. And those donors gave $2,500 each, which is a very significant gift when you don't know somebody, right? You don't know them, you don't know their movie. I don't think they had any of their movie at the time. That's not part of my methodology. But it did make a beautiful film in the end. Oh my God, it was beautiful. But these young ladies, you know, so I said, well, now I want you to go and connect with those people and work with them. And they raised another, I think, $10,000 from those two donors. So we converted, they were already pretty major donors giving $2,500, but we converted them into giving more. So if you don't know anybody, you've never done any fundraising, I like to have you start with a crowdfunding campaign and then work to start landing your first major donors. Now, over time, over years, as you make one film and another film and another film and another film, you're going to expand your list of major donors. So you might start with 2 and build that to 10 and build that to 20 and build that to 200, right? So over time, you're going to work closely. Those major donors are really going to be your partners, okay? So individuals, and if you get a grant or anything, I think that the next goal is to match that grant with donors. So if you get a $5,000 grant, go and get 5,000 from donors. If you get 100,000, go and get $100,000. But when I was working with those 5 wonderful filmmakers at Brown Girls Doc Mafia, I'm telling you, it had not crossed their mind to ask individuals for money. And so, you know, I would do an hour-long consultation with each one of them. By about the 3rd time, I thought, I sound like a stuck record. I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again. But as documentary filmmakers, they really had their blinders on. We're going to get grants, you know? So another way of fundraising is to get grants. And so documentary filmmakers think, okay, I'm going to apply for all these documentary film grants. Great. And these particular 5 women had already gotten grants. And I've had several clients who have gotten grants, but I see every single person not taking the first step, which I think is the first grant you should be applying for, which is your local funding. I just got a notice this morning, Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade is one of the best funded places for the arts in the country. It may be behind New York, but it's not very far behind. But Miami has done the most extraordinary job of building its arts network with funding. And but there are local grants, and one just came out today, and it was like a neighborhood arts, which would be for, if Paris is his organization or Mike's organization were in Miami, that would be money you would get every year. And so let's say that's a $25,000 grant. but it's every year. Those are what I call your bread and butter. It's the money that you can count on, you're going to get every year. Get it from, in here would be Miami-Dade, from the state of Florida, from, you know, these places, and they fund their artists, their local artists or their local arts organizations. And you apply, you show how you've done a good job with the money you got last year, what you're going to do new this year, you get your money. And there are going to be certain grants like that for everybody here. And every filmmaker I know skips this step, even though I teach them not to. So just as a warning, your local money, you should be getting every single year. And it should be in your calendar, and you should be meeting that deadline and knowing that these are my bread and butter grants, and I get these every year, and there is nothing that is going to stop me from making those deadlines. I know today the neighborhood arts grant announcement came out on March the 21st. I can put that in my calendar for March the 25th, 2025. March the 21st, 2025 is probably going to be the date that the neighborhood arts grant is coming out, right? So those bread and butter grants that come around every year, you should be getting those every year. There are also fellowships. The first grant I ever got was a state of Florida fellowship. I just showed my work. They gave me $5,000 to do with as I wish. I could have paid the rent with it. A fellowship is money for an artist to do with as they wish. And the third type of grant are usually small. There's one in California, actually. Oh, Connor, he left. I wanted to ask him if he got the money, but there's one for $750 that you can get if you live in LA or San Francisco. In Miami, that grant is called technical assistance, has gone up to $1,500 now. But that's money that you can get for, well, I've had people apply to work with me. I've had people apply to go to a conference. I had people apply to all these different things, but it's professional development. So they're usually called professional development or technical assistance. But again, you should be getting that every year. Every year. So only after I've made sure that I've got all those things in my calendar would I start applying for documentary film grants or grants for screenwriters or grants for fiction filmmakers, you know, whatever's out there. Then another way that you can fundraise, especially when you're still solo, especially if you're making fiction grants, it's not as common for documentaries, but is to raise money from investors. So investors, for example, Paris's film with the $30 million, that's really a project for investors. Although to raise maybe $75,000 or so for development, that could come more from grants, from donors, from that kind of thing. With documentary films, you always break it up into 4 different stages: research and development, production, post-production, impact, and distribution. But you can do the same thing with fiction films as well. So you can break off research and development, maybe $75,000. And I had a friend of mine years ago, Jamin O'Brien, we were talking one day and he suddenly realized he was spending all this money out of his own pocket for the development phase of his feature films. And they tend to be $5 to $8 million features with A-list actors and so on. So he did a crowdfunding campaign. He set up a $75,000 crowdfunding campaign, and he usually pays the rent by hiring people on commercials, on features that he works on. He's hired tons of people over the decades, and he raised $75,000 for development money for one of his features. Thinking about fiction films, but definitely if you break off a piece of that research and development and use nonprofit, the ways that nonprofits and documentaries raise money, that would be what I would do there. And then I would use that money to develop the film far enough to where it's ready to go to investors. I have also, like I have one client who has a film about $2 million, and we've raised $500,000 as the basis to raise the rest of the money. So that's a really good way of thinking about fiction film. Other ways, corporate sponsorship. I know Mike, who you've been hearing from, he's been working with me for a little while, and he's got very excited about corporate sponsorship. And so he has gone to PBS, and they're very excited to have his film. And what a lot of filmmakers don't realize is that PBS doesn't pay you to have your film on PBS, but you can then go to a corporation that wants to have their name in front of PBS audiences, and they will sponsor the film. Mark Gordon has raised money from corporate sponsors, and now Mike is doing it. So once you can say to a corporation, I have X million people who are going to see this film, then a corporation becomes interested. It's much harder to raise film, especially if it's your first feature, from corporations, from their marketing department, when you can't really say how many people are going to see it. But when you can, now corporations are interested. Another way of raising money is through foundations. And that, I think, is a very good place for you to go when you're solo and before you have a team, is to research foundations and write a 2-page letter of intent, letter of interest, and send that to the foundation and start building a relationship with the foundation. Especially if you think about foundations in a geographic sense. Like I'll use Mark. So Mark is in New Mexico, and then he has one film that's set in Taos. And so there are foundations that are interested in funding those specific geographic locations. And the beauty of that is that if you can build a relationship with that foundation, then they'll fund you for this film and they'll fund you for the next film. Right? So that geographic focus is very, very important. I was doing some research for Mike Camoin, and he's in Albany, New York, which is an area I know nothing about. And lo and behold, there are so many foundations located in Albany. Who knew? I didn't know that, but there's a ton of foundations located in Albany. So you can start building a relationship with these foundations. When I first moved to San Francisco, I was working for the YMCA as their director of development. And my boss was very worried because they were used to raising money from certain foundations, and they had a relationship with those foundations. And I was coming from Miami and I didn't know anybody. So she hired a former director of development to come and be a consultant with me. And it didn't take very long. It took a few weeks before the consultant said, Joanne, there's nothing I have to teach you. Because I would just call people up. I'd say, hey, I'm the new director of development at the YMCA, and I want to apply. And I would just start that relationship. Anybody can do that. Not every foundation is going to pick up the phone and actually have a conversation with you. But I had an advantage because we had already been receiving money from that foundation every year. Right. So I'm just calling up to say, I'm the new person. I want to introduce myself. I could come over and meet you. And this was pre-COVID. So I was going and meeting everybody and just making sure that relationship continued. You know, it was interesting when I left, the woman who replaced me, who I'm now very, very friends with, I sat down with her and I said, oh, I just want to go over like how we're going to do the handover. She said, I don't need any help from you. And the next year they raised about half what I had raised that year. But she just didn't know that she needed my help to bridge the new relationship with the new foundations. you know, and she was arrogant, and she's not like that anymore. That's why we're friends. But foundations are a fantastic way to raise money. My fundraising mentor is Murray Warshawski, and Murray Warshawski wrote a book which I think is still the Bible, although I have a new book which is the Bible for fundraising for film. But Murray Warshawski has a book called Shaking the Money Tree. And Shaking the Money Tree is definitely a Bible for filmmakers. And I used to bring Murray Warshawski to Miami to teach classes. And one year he came and he said, the best way to raise money is from individuals by doing house parties. And he has a book called House Parties, which I would highly recommend. I'm not going to go into it now, but it's a way of gathering major donors together to give to a film. And then the next year he came and he said, oh, my favorite way of raising money is foundations. So it would sort of go back and forth. One year it would be individuals, one year it would be foundations. And, you know, you can really build a relationship with a foundation and grow with them over time, especially if you're making films in a certain niche, you know. If you make one year, if you make a film about the homeless, and the next year you make a film about coal mines, then you're not so well going to be able to build your foundation relationships. But maybe the foundation likes the homeless and likes coal mines, you know. So that's going to depend. But foundations are a really good thing and a really good way. And like Leo, you know, in San Francisco, just surrounded by major foundations. They're all there, you know. Maybe not for California Shorts, but for another project, maybe, you know. Oh, thank you, Emily, for putting the link into Murray Warshawski's book. So even if you're alone, I would like you to, you're fundraising alone, I'd like you to think about raising money in more than one kind of fundraising, diversifying your portfolio to start with, and using that as a way to get you to the next phase. Oh, wait, I just remembered Mark had his hand up. Sorry, Mark, what were you going to say earlier? Sorry.
Can you hear me? Yeah, so I wanted to comment on one of the things, what you were talking about, raising underwriting funds. And so the first film we did, we had it was our first film, we managed to raise $500,000. It took a couple of years to do that, but we had no track record. So I mean, people liked the project and could see how it could be, but they were, you know, taking a chance. So after we had completed the project, we invested a lot of money into a station relations manager who could actually get us in front of the executives at PBS and the programming directors at the individual stations all over the country. And so now when I go in, I can say, so we had 1,700 broadcasts of our film, and they tell us that we were seen by a potential audience of 280 million people. Are you interested in supporting a film that might give you that kind of exposure? Suddenly we've got some legs. And
yes,
that's
absolutely.
now.
And the one little tweak I would make to your story is not
Yeah.
so much that we invested a lot of money, but we raised a lot of money.
Thank you.
Right, we raised a lot of money to be able to do that. And this is another thing that I'm saying about breaking things into pieces. So we raised $65,000 to be able to do this list of things, which was to take the film from the 3,000 screenings to the, or whatever it was, I'm doing the numbers wrong, but from this level of screenings to this level of screenings, right?
Yeah, before
another thing, go ahead. You muted yourself.
How's this? Sorry. So before we got the station relations manager, we had our local TV station who convinced us that they could really distribute the film. They had the film for 3 years. They got us 200 broadcasts. And then in 6 months, our station relations manager got us 1,200 more broadcasts. So it really makes a big difference.
Yes,
And-
absolutely.
And now, and I, you know, and of course, the people that supported the film are very happy with the numbers. They say, well, you know, I mean, they can't see exact conversions, but they can see the gross numbers as a advertising buy. And it's certainly a lot cheaper to get 1,700 broadcasts on PBS than it would to buy that time on ABC, NBC, CBS.
Yes, and the other thing that is so important is that PBS is the most trusted government agency in the country. So on the one hand, PBS is trusted, and then its audiences are audiences with a very high income. So corporations want to be involved with the most trusted government agency, and they want to put their name in front of millions of people with a very high income. So that's really important. And then I just want to say that for those of you who also are running nonprofits, that this idea of kind of raising for a piece of this and a piece of that. One thing that I like people to raise for, and we're going to get into this more tomorrow, is to raise money to fundraise. You know, is to raise money to fundraise. And that's something that's a very important thing to start thinking about. So as you have the sort of your vision of, well, who could be on my team? How could I expand my team? You can also start thinking about, how do I start to think about investing in fundraising? And now, who was the lovely person who said they would put me on their team? Oh, Paris, I think it was Paris, put me on their team. So you know, and I would love to be on your team. But so one way that you could invest in fundraising would be to hire me, and I will show you how to fundraise. I have a program called the Virtual Fundraising Team, where I put together a team of people, grant writer, corporate sponsor, researcher, and we move very fast to take your film or your nonprofit really to the next level by raising money in over a very short period of time. And it's a particular foundation to that virtual fundraising team is this idea of diversifying your portfolio, because there are more ways of raising money than most of us have time to do as one person. So by hiring me and my virtual fundraising team, you sort of have already a team. And what my idea, I came up with the idea of my virtual fundraising team during the 7 years that I spent in bed too sick to work. And I came up with one really brilliant idea. And the brilliant idea was to take this way that I used to work in the fundraising world. I was called a one-stop development shop. So as I said, in nonprofits, development means raising money. That's not what it means in the film world, but in the nonprofit world, development means raising money. So, for example, when I was hired to go to the YMCA in San Francisco as the director of development, I was the only staff person in charge of fundraising. And my job was to raise $38 million to build a new YMCA and to raise $250,000 a year in grants, and to be in charge of, I was telling you the story about the 6-week campaign where we had all these teams that worked together to raise money. And that was another $250,000, I think. So I was in charge of those things. And then I brought a planned giving launch to the YMCA. Planned giving is when people leave money in their wills. And we had a huge population of people who went to that Y. They were members. They gave, for 30, 40, 50 years. And we had no planned giving program at the YMCA. And people who give $25 a year, every year for 20 years, are the most likely to leave to a charity in their will. So I nearly became a planned giving specialist because I loved it so much. I just loved that whole idea and that whole thinking. But people don't look at the people who give $25 and think, oh, they might give 25,000, they might give 250,000, they might give 25 million. People don't look at people and think like that. One of my favorite fundraising stories is that I would go every month to the board meeting and I would present to the board about the fundraising. And there was this lovely woman on the board who'd been on the board for over 20 years. And she was Hawaiian Japanese. Leo knows what that is. I had to learn that stuff in San Francisco. She was Hawaiian Japanese. And she would come early and she would go to the cafe at the YMCA and she would make muffins. And she would bring fresh baked muffins to the board meeting every single time, month after month, year after year after year after year. And she never said one word. She never spoke at the board meeting. And so I watched her and I found out that she gave $25,000 a year to the Y. So one day I went early to the board meeting and I went over to the cafe and I hung out with her while she made the muffins. And I said to her, I would like to host a meeting with the board members to invite new board members to come onto the board. And I wondered if you might be willing to host it. And she lit up. She was so excited. So we had this lovely event at her home, her beautiful home, and we invited all the board members. And then we had all these new people who were going to come onto the board. And it was just lovely. And we'd never had anything like that at the Y. And then I said to her, we'd like to have another event. It was something else, board member, something. She did another event at her home and she handed over $1 million to the YMCA. And, it was funny because my boss had known her for 25 years, but she hadn't watched her make muffins. She hadn't watched her make muffins. She hadn't found a way because of her cultural acclimation, she didn't speak. But she was expressing herself in a way that was really the thing that was dear to her heart. She was expressing herself. And so all I did was ask her to expand that expression, that the hostess, the entertaining, the food, all of that beautiful stuff that she could bring to the table. So if you want to hire me, fabulous. You know where to find me. I'm a business coach. I will teach you how to fundraise. Or if you're ready to bring on my virtual fundraising team, what I'm trying to do is provide you with that one-stop development shop. But to hire that person now would be maybe 75, 80, maybe $100,000 even. And I do it for way less than that. But to hire me and my team to come and do the fundraising for you. And the one thing that I would say, if that is a direction you want to go, is that one time I was talking to one of my clients about it, and she said, oh, that's great because you can do the fundraising and I can get on with the filmmaking. And I said, no, absolutely not. That is not the way it works. Paris knows, Daniel knows.
I know.
Yeah, it's got to be like this. And so when it's better really if the person has already been my client in the program where I'm teaching you to fundraise, because then you can learn some of the basics, and then we can ramp up, and then I'll be able to, you know, take it much faster. But my virtual fundraising team is really a way to go from being solo to having a team, to having all the materials, you know, a pitch deck for investors, a different pitch deck for corporations, a foundation letter, maybe a crowdfunding, all these different things, all these different ways of raising money, and to do it much faster than, say, hiring a one-stop development shop person for a year, because it would take about a year for most people to put all that together. So if you are interested in either of those things, please let me know, and we'll get on and raise some money, which for me is the most fun thing that I can think of doing, raising money. I love raising money because it's really about having a vision and then having that vision manifest in the real world. That's really what it is. That's what fundraising is. It's having a vision that actually can manifest as something. You know, when I was running capital campaigns, it was to build that building, you know, to build that building. It could be to build an organization. It could be to acquire equipment. It's to make a film. For most of us, it's to make a film. But that to turn that vision into that manifestation takes money in the middle. And one of the things that I learned just really in the last few months is that I met these people who have worked and developed a beautiful, amazing vision. And then I would say to them, what's the budget? And they would like stunned, never ask themselves the question, how much is that going to cost? It's like, how can you actually have a vision and turn it in something real if you don't go through the process of the money part? Right? So, okay, I'm going to have you in breakout sessions again. And this time, I'd like to have you do a little planning. So you all know your number for 2024. And I'd like you to come up with your, let's call them favorite ways of fundraising in order. And I want you to pick 1, then 2, and then 3. What's my favorite way of fundraising? What's my second favorite way of fundraising? What's my third favorite way of fundraising that I'm going to use to take to that number that I'm going to raise in 2024? Okay, we're just going to start with 2024. So I'm going to say it again just to make sure everybody gets the assignment correctly. So you're going to look at your number for 2024, and you're going to decide, what are my top 3 ways of fundraising for that number? And then I want you to assign a number to each of those ways of fundraising that's going to add up to your total number of 2024. That's a bit complicated, so if you missed it, maybe I'll try and write it in the chat. I'm not sure you can see in the chat if you're in breakout rooms. But anyway, I'm going to just say it one more time. You're going to pick your number for 2024. You're going to pick your 1, 2, and 3 ways of fundraising, top 3. And you're going to raise X amount with way number 1, Y amount with way number 2, and Z amount with way number 3. And it's going to add up to your total. Okay, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms for 5 minutes, and I'd like you to share those numbers with another person. Were you trying to tell me something, Emily? We'll see how we do. I may have given you too hard an exercise, but we're going to go with 5 minutes, and you're going to try and...
Then there's still 8 people, because there were 9 and then Connor left.
Yes. Oh, Connor left. Okay. All right. Did Mike leave? No, Mike is here. Okay, I'm going to move my...
Emily, I was thinking that I might need to leave because I'm at work. So if that helps you any, I'm more than happy to jump off.
No, we'd love to have you stay, actually.
Okay.
For the 5 minutes. All right, 5 minutes. Do your best. I gave you kind of a hard exercise, but do your best. Okay, see you in 5 minutes.
Yes.
Just when it was getting good.
We cut you all off.
Joanne, you gotta stop this. It's just like when we start, like we're getting to somewhere juicy and nice, and then like a
Oh,
tease.
It's great. It's great. You're all meeting each other. As in nearly everybody today is my clients. So that's a special group of people, you know.
Is there a way for us
all
to
right.
share emails with each other? Because I was going to put it in the chat for Dan.
You are all in my Facebook group, so you can all message each other via
Yes.
Facebook.
Okay.
So what was I going to say? Oh yeah, were you able to do the exercise? Because I do think that I gave you something a bit hard to do. Were you able to do it? Would anybody like to share what they? Oh, Mark, go ahead. Oh, were you saying you would share?
Yeah, no, I was. So
I know if I gave something too hard, if everybody gets it wrong. So there's no right or wrong.
no, it made sense.
You thought
to
it was
me.
clear. Okay, good.
So I had, you know, the thing that's the most fun for us is when we have events where we screen the film and have different people. And fortunately, I've got my executive producer and her husband own 7 restaurants that are very popular in Santa Fe. So they'll actually spring for the event. So I've got 50,000 for that. Well, the goal is 300. And then I combined underwriters and grants into one thing, and that would be like 200,000. And individual donors would be 50. That would reach my 300,000 goal.
350,000, did you say?
300.
Well, you know, you chid because you put 2 together, grants and what, corporate sponsors?
Yeah.
So you really picked 4.
Oh, okay.
Right. But anyway, you said the total was what, 300 or 350?
300.
Okay, 200 there. And then I'm just writing in the chat. And then the last one was what, individuals?
Individuals, I put that at 50.
Okay, so what you've actually done is you've picked the same group twice. So number 1 and number 3 are both individuals. So, I mean, this is just how I think about fundraising. They're individuals, but having a house party is a different way of approaching individuals than any other way of approaching individuals. And the easiest way to approach an individual is to speak to them and have them write you a check, right?
That's a good way to go.
That's the good way to go. You do that all the time. A house party, you put on an event. I love the fact that you added in, they will pay for it. So the venue is going to pay for it. So the only way that I like people to do special events is to do house parties. And the way that you can judge if you're doing a good job is if you have not spent any money.
Huh.
Okay.
You know, people are always wanting to do events and spend a ton of money. It's a very bad idea. Right?
We had one event where this woman was just the wine connoisseur, and it was like, well, I'll get, you know, she had this great wine store that they kicked in a case and she bought a case. She was
But I just caution anybody, if you're going to do a fundraising event, start from the premise of I am not spending any money, and then you may have a good fundraising event. But otherwise, so Mark is great. House party at a venue that's going to cover it. Grants and corporate sponsorships. I would really say that you're going to get 100,000 from individuals. That's number 1. Number 2 is corporate sponsors, and number 3 is grants. That's really what your 3 are. But that was great. That was a great exercise. Who else would like to share their 3? Don't be shy.
I'll hop in.
Great.
So,
go ahead, Mike.
My goal is 300,000. The top 3 ways: individuals / crowdfunding. I put 75,000. Corporate underwriters, I put 200,000. And grants, which are not my favorite thing to do, I put 25,000.
Oh, why are they not your favorite thing?
Well, probably because I haven't. Well, I have been successful at grants, but they've been for like $5,000 or $10,000.
You have been successful, did you say?
Oh,
good. $5,000 is good, right? This is where I think filmmakers.
I never had a I know. I've never had a database of foundations the way I do now. I just perhaps don't have the muscle and the confidence, but we're just getting that wheel.
So first of all, I just want to say, don't write off $5,000, right? That's what everybody does. They're like, oh, I got to raise 300,000. I'm not going to write that grant for 5. Like, no, write the grant for 5.
Mm-hmm.
The 300 is going to be made up of all these different amounts. The thing that I think will help your confidence with grants is when we get that first grant done, Mike. That's really good. Because once you have a really good grant, then you just rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. But you have to be confident that the first one is good, right? Yeah. The next thing you said, your first choice was individuals crowdfunding 75. I wouldn't go that high with a crowdfunding campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So I would separate crowdfunding as small donors. This is how I think about it again. So I'm just kind of teaching you my way of thinking. Crowdfunding, small donors, 25,000. Individual major donors, 50,000 is how I would think of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So because people think, oh, crowdfunding, oh, I'm going to send it out on social media, but all that's going to get is small donors, which is great. Again, $25,000. That's a lot of money, But the reason I love crowdfunding is not so much the money, which is great, it's the visibility. Because if you get 100 people to give, that's $10,000. If you get 250 people to give, that's 25,000. But now you've got the word out to thousands of people. If you get 250 to give, you've got the word out to hundreds of people. So it's very much about visibility and getting the word out, and then you can start working on landing your major donors from that. Okay, who else wants to play? I like this game.
I'll go.
Anita!
Hi, everybody.
Where are you driving to? Anita, where are you driving to?
To the Dallas, Texas area.
Okay, lovely.
We're in Oklahoma right now.
Oh, where in Oklahoma?
Oh, that's where we are right now on our trip.
Yeah, nice. I just realized that nobody has been saying their log lines as they've been talking. So let's start saying your log lines so everyone knows what films you're working on. Anita's like,
the pain of it all. Oh gosh. Okay. I haven't said this out loud in a while, so you really put me on the spot.
I know. That's right.
A former health reporter diagnosed with several autoimmune diseases learns firsthand what it's like to have chronic illnesses in America.
In the American health system.
Yes.
In the American health system. Yes, that's awesome. All right. So what are your three?
My three, 200,000, and my three, 150 for corporate sponsorship, 25 for individuals, and 25 in grants.
Okay. And is corporate sponsorship your favorite way to raise money?
I can't say any of these are my favorite way to raise money, but I'm putting myself out there. I think I did really well with the grant. That writing the grant with your assistance. I now need to raise some money to do a really kick butt trailer or 10-20 minute version. So I submitted it to one of the a couple of the top fundraisers, knowing that the video part was going to kill me because I don't have anyone working with me on that. And so I made it to like the second round.
Oh.
And yeah, but it was the video that,
do you remember who you applied to? You remember who you applied to?
One was Sundance.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember.
The other wasn't Catalyst, was it? Catalyst?
Yes.
Catapult? Catapult.
Catapult. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just want to say Catapult funds very experienced fundraisers. I mean, sorry, filmmakers. Very experienced filmmakers. So did you get in the second round with Catapult?
Yes.
Wow. All I can say is, wow. Yeah, they fund very, very experienced filmmakers. So the fact that you got to the second round says a lot. Okay. But this is what I would say. The reason I asked you to put in the order of your favorite is because you've got to start with what's going to come easiest. So you said corporate sponsorship, then what?
Individuals.
And then grants.
Grants.
Individuals is going to be the easiest. Right? So if you say, how much did you put for individuals?
25.
So you could do a crowdfunding campaign, or you could just do a letter campaign to people to raise that 25. And then what would you use the 25 for?
I would use the 25 for paying for some animation and building a really good trailer.
Right. So if you have, which is what Catapult would have given you money for, right? If you raise 25,000 from individuals, make yourself, I don't want to call it trailer because a trailer is what you make after the film, right? So a work sample, a really good work sample. Now you can get grants.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
once
I
you have
that.
Right. And once you have a finished film, now you can get corporate sponsorship. Right. So the order is very, very important. The order is very important because you can get that. You can say, I'm going to raise $25,000 by April the 21st. That will take you to the next stage. That will take you to the next stage. Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you got through to the second round of Catapult, let me tell you, Anita, you're going. But go for that individual piece first.
Okay.
Get your fundraising work sample done, and then move on. And if you apply to a grant today, and the deadline is, say, tomorrow, let's say the deadline's tomorrow, and you give them your work sample that you have, then write to them and say, I'm going to have a new work sample by the end of April. Can I switch out the work sample before the review panel sees it? Now you've created deadlines for yourself that you have to meet. That was fun. I'm having so much fun with your fundraising plans. It's got to be fun for me, okay? It's got to be fun for me. All right,
Putting the
Paris.
fun in
Thank you
fundraising.
so much.
Put
Fun.
the fun in fundraising.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Oh, okay, Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, oh, no, I was not going to add. I say it's so much fun.
Oh.
I'm excited.
Paris, you go ahead. Let's hear your fundraising plan.
Well, I'm gonna just go to my nonprofit, so it just takes that one
Okay.
thing. And this is from listening to all of this. So the first thing is individuals. I know I can get anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 from individuals. 50 for sure. 20, the extra 25, the other 50 I can work on, but I could get. All right.
Was that your number one? Was that the number one that you put?
No, my number one originally was grants.
Aha, right.
That was until this. So I just turned it around. That's all I did.
Right.
Because I know I can get that money. That money I can get.
Yes.
I didn't think about it. I put it at the bottom because, hey, I can get it, but I'll put it at the top.
Yes.
Because it's easy money. And then I can use that money to help me get more money.
That's
which
right.
is kind of what I'm already doing. Then one is go after local money. Now, I've tried it before when I was in Rhode Island, and you know, local politics. You get that. Sometimes that does come into play. You know, when I was in Rhode Island, I was the first person to start a nonprofit group for filmmakers, and the mayor of Rhode Island invited me to come in. He was going to give me a building and money. And the minute I moved there, he got arrested, thrown in jail. His name is Bill Yancey. They made a documentary about it. It was hilarious.
Oh my God. Oh, politics does come into play, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I kind of got a little blacklisted because I was in his little courtier, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
so
what happened is I started my nonprofit, the only one in Rhode Island for film. 3 more popped up like the next month, and they all got funding but me. So it kind of, you know, those things kind of happen. But I'm still going to look for local money because since then till now, I've won Sundance, I've made other movies and other projects. So I think that now I come in a little bit more gravitas than a bushy-eyed kid coming to town and nobody knows, you know? And
except you're hanging out with the guy who's in prison.
Well, he's out of prison and they want him to be mayor again. So that's what's so crazy about it. Rhode Island loves criminals. I mean, hey, what can you say?
Oh my God, there's a movie right there. There's a movie right there.
There's a campaign line. We love criminals. It's perfect.
Exactly. He came out and they're like, yeah, Yancey for mayor again. I'm like, what?
Oh my God.
And so local money, and I'm gonna do the same thing here in Jersey, and then grants. I'm really going hard on grants because I know there's money for job training, career training. Damn, my brain is tired. What do you call that money for people work in a company and they learn as they go through the company? There's a process.
Training and development.
Apprenticeship. There's money for apprenticeship programs. There's money for preparing people to get jobs for other companies. So there's ever since COVID, so there's all kinds of money out there. And my life partner, Catalina, and my business partner, they're going in heavily into getting and touching grants. Because again, this is new to us. Since we do film, we've always gone to investors. And because we have connections, that doesn't guarantee anything, but at least we're fortunate to have connections. But this kind of money is so new to us, this whole grant money and local money and stuff like that. But we're looking forward to rolling up our sleeves and diving in, which is one of the reasons why I'm here today.
Yes. So individuals first. It's always the fastest, always going to be the best. And you build that over time. Second, local money. That's got to be your bread and butter. You've got to get that money every single year, whatever is available for the organization. And then you'll build that over time. You know, when I had my interview for the YMCA, I was living in Miami. I had flown in from San Francisco to San Francisco. And I'm in my job interview, right? And she was telling me this and that. And they said, they got money from the Department of Children and Families, which is the San Francisco agency that gives money to children and families, you know, food programs, you know, I mean, real basic survival kind of stuff. And I said, oh, how much do you get? And I think she said $60,000. And I said, oh, that doesn't sound right. And I'm just learning this new organization. I just said, that doesn't sound right. So I went and got $240,000 from them when I asked for it. I was like, I don't like that number, $60,000. I don't think I like that. They're just not seeing it right. You know, they're just not seeing it. They're asking for some kind of tactical thing for $60,000. I'm like, hey, we need a social worker. We need a full-time social worker here for these kids. You know, we need this, we need that. I'm providing a vision for the funder, not, you know, how many meals we serve a week or whatever it was, you know. But yeah, we had our first full-time social worker there. You know, we had kids dealing with our own kids getting shot, their family members getting shot, sexual abuse, physical abuse, people on the streets, God knows what. We finally got a full-time social worker, but nobody ever
in that
asked.
same vein, you know, I was thinking of having an after-school program only for high school students in 11th and 12th grade, because I'm dealing with serious stuff. So I'm cutting it at that. But if they're at my place learning about editing or cinematography or sound, they're not getting pregnant. They're not spreading sexually transmitted disease. They're not involved in crime. They're caring about going to college. There's so many ways of getting money. When you take a bunch of kids and put them in one place for so many hours, that affects the community in many positive ways. There's so much not happening in those hours.
Yeah.
I just recently got contacted by my high school, and I'm having this lovely conversation with this lovely lady who was doing the liaison stuff. And I finally told her, you know, she says, well, were you happy at Sydenham? And I said, happy? It meant that I didn't have to go home. You know, I would never have survived if I hadn't had my high school. I was in every single team except the swim team, because I still can drown. I was at every practice. I was there before school. I was there after school. I would walk home 5 miles just so I didn't have to be at home.
You know what you're saying?
There are lots of kids out there like that. Lots of kids.
Touched me. My brother was in a gang in Philadelphia. And 2 of his friends got killed right in front of him in a drive-by from another gang. So he had to hide out with me for his life. So I had to have my crazy, insane young brother with me for like 3 months. And in that time period, he kept talking about how he's going to die. He didn't care about dying.
Right.
Very depressing. So I took him to a music video shoot because I didn't want to leave him alone in my house because I didn't want to rob him. Crazy, right? So we had a great day at this music video shoot. It was Kwame, Larry Lar, Rock the Polka Dots. I don't know if you guys remember that stuff back in the day. But he had such a great time. And he was always saying, oh, I'm not going to have tomorrow. I'm going to die. There's going to be no tomorrow. So when we're leaving, he said, can you bring me back tomorrow? I said, what do you mean? There's going to be no tomorrow. You're going to die. There is no tomorrow. And he said, no, I want to live. I want to live.
Oh my God.
Doc,
oh my
I can't
God.
even tell you how much that affected me to hear him say that.
Oh my God.
He was all negative and all death and destruction and nothing the whole time he was there. And he looked at me and he said, I want to live. And I said to myself, all you got to do is give a kid a dream, a hope, something they love to do, and it will change their life. They will stop doing every crazy, stupid thing to do something they love to do. And that was my inspiration for creating this nonprofit.
What a fabulous story. Leo will know what I'm talking about here, but when I was at the Y, I discovered that the Y was a neutral zone. So there was no gangs at the Y. But when the kids left, they weren't in neutral zone anymore. And so they were taught to always work in groups, go to the train station, get on the train, go home. And I found out from my kids that if they walked 2 blocks down to Market Street, and Market Street is the big road, goes all the way from the water all the way through San Francisco, big main road. If they crossed that road, they would be killed. And one day I was making a presentation to raise some money in front of the San Francisco mayor's office or whatever. And I said, can you imagine in you living your life, you cannot cross Market Street or your life is in danger? I said, you can't even begin to imagine what our kids' lives are like. Because if your child or if you were told you couldn't cross Market Street or your life would be in danger, things would change. And we always got all the money I asked for. All the money.
That's great. Because it was like that in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
it could be a gang of women. I would not cross that street.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And, you know, I was telling Daniel this, that this is a conceptual thing, and you said it a little bit, Paris, but so if you ask for money for the arts, there's this much money, right? You ask for $100,000, they're like, well, we can give you 25, you know. You ask for money for education, there's this much money. You know, you ask for $100,000, you get 25. If you go to job training, you ask for $1 million, you get $1 million. If you ask for money for job placement, it 10x's. If you can train people and put them in jobs, then there is the federal money that's available for that is a completely different thing. And they do not nickel and dime you. You know, it costs X thousands of dollars per person to get to this place. And so now federal money is hard to get and it's slower and you have to have a lot of things in place. Okay, fine. But that's where we're going with Daniel's school and we, you know, with yours as well. But that's ultimately, you want to be going for that money. But yeah, they don't do like in the arts, you say, I need $100,000, they give you 25. That's not how it is when you're in those kind of arenas. But look, we're talking about saving people's lives. So
And
that's
no, I
what that
didn't tell
money's
you that
for.
before, but that was my motivation. Because I was in the music video world. So, I'm surrounded by a whole lot of people and kids and, there's drugs everywhere and homeless kids and they love music videos. So it drew all kinds of kids and there was a lot of violence too, unfortunately around music videos and that hip hop rap world.
Well, what I would suggest is every single time you write a grant for that program, you include that story.
Mm-hmm.
That will make a big difference, because I know when I was talking to those mayor people and everything, they had not a clue. And so I was able to show them that picture, and they just gave us the money every single time. They just gave us the money. Here's the money. And when I went and I had a goal of $250,000 just in grants, and the first year I raised 251,000, and the second year I raised 749,000. I was just telling the story. I was just telling the story, but the real story, All right, who else wants to play the game? We're going to finish at 4:30, but anybody else want to play the game? I'm just having way too much fun.
Okay, I guess.
Daniel.
Okay, so for me, individual, I say about 1 million from individual. Foundation about 2 million, and then from local agency another 1 million.
What do you mean local agency?
Like local grants and like pretty much like some of them is local money.
The local government money.
Like local government money, yes.
Government money, yes. Okay, no, that sounds right. And are we still going to start with the crowdfunding campaign?
Yes, we're still gonna start with
we're still going to start with that.
Yes,
okay.
So pretty much, like I've been, really doing a lot of meeting with those groups, especially individual. And what I've done as well is I participate in a lot of other fundraising activity that they are doing. So find out like what they are doing. So I
Aha.
contribute to them. So I have like a nice painting. I donated to
Oh.
one of their
Oh,
one of their
that's
their
great.
causes. And
That's great.
it was
That's
one
great.
thing, they were fundraising for Haiti. So you know what?
Uh-huh.
I got that painting and I gave it to them. So I'm
Who's
gonna
the artist? Who's the
Mario
artist?
Benjamin. So it was a gift,
Okay.
and that painting is about $40,000. But the thing is, I got two of them.
Wow.
But guess what? This is the wealthiest church in New Jersey. So so it's just like
Very nice.
so I have a second one. So now they're getting the art appraised to see how much.
Yes.
So once it's
Yes.
appraising, says I have a second one, then that one will be for my school.
So yes, fantastic. That's really great. When I first arrived in Miami, I was at the University of Miami, and I was at the English department, and every now and then people would phone up and they'd say, hey, do you have any students who want to do some work? Right? Do you want to do this? And that's how I got into fundraising, because I went to work for this dance company. And that's how I started fundraising. But anyway, I had this other job, and it was this woman, Yuki. I don't remember her last name, this Japanese lady. Oh my God, we had so much fun. And she wanted me to teach her English. Well, her English was pretty much perfect, right? But she wanted to be better. And she was extremely wealthy. And she had grown up very, very wealthy. And she had married one of the wealthiest men in Japan. And one day she came home and he was in their bedroom with another woman. And she divorced him, which you didn't do. You didn't do that in those days in Japan if you were a woman. And so she was kind of an outcast from Japanese society. And she came to Miami, and she was kind of scouting Miami for who eventually became her husband. His name was Tokishima. I can't remember. Anyway, some massive company this guy owned, huge. So she's hanging out with all these wealthy people in Miami. And every single one of them had a cause that they wanted her to give money to. And she was expected to show up at an event, give $25,000. That was the expectation. If you're hanging out with us, you're going to give to my cause. That was how it went. And it was just very, very interesting to meet somebody who was and it was so transactional. They were like, oh, you want to spend time with me? Then you can come to my event and you can give to my event. It was really, really amazing. And she lived in this sort of very strange shadow world, but eventually she married Mr. Tokishima, or whatever his name was, I don't remember. And so now I've lost touch with her, unfortunately, but what a lovely, lovely, lovely person. But very brave as well. She divorced him.
Paris, I think Paris and I, we should charge people to hang out with us.
That's right.
Let me tell you something. Rich people love to hear about the movie industry. They love us. Okay, so if they'll invite you to party, just charge them money to hang out with you and tell them about your life, and they will be paying you.
Yeah, hang out with me.
I love it.
$10.
I love it.
Oh no!
I love it.
Rich people
No.
love. If you have pictures, they love it even more, and then you charge them.
Yes. Well, they can all go to Mark's event that he's having in April.
Oh, where?
At the fanciest restaurant in Taos, New Mexico.
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe, sorry, I always get it wrong. Santa Fe, New Mexico. But yeah, these are, you know how to hang. Mark knows how to deal with wealthy people. It's just the way it is. When you want to raise
On May 1st, gonna be my first
Care about
fundraising.
them.
Okay.
May 1st.
What, Mark?
I said, just care about them. Take
Yeah.
a real interest in what's important to them and what hurts and what makes them happy, and remember what they said about their kids and follow through next time you see them, so that you're more interested in the relationship than worrying. The money will take care of itself.
Yeah, wealthy people need good friends. They really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. and interesting things to do with their money, you know, and things that stretch them and that are interesting. Okay, anybody else who would like to play the game that's entertaining me so much? Anybody else? I think Felicia can't talk. Yvette, can you talk? Leo? Leo, why are you not saying anything? Bah, 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 bah.
I can talk.
Oh, Yvette. Okay, go ahead, Yvette.
Okay. Well, like I was saying earlier, I'm not sure about my
No.
numbers.
Just give me a number. Just give me a number. What's your number for 2024? Don't worry about it.
That's where the issue is. Okay, well,
we don't apologize for anything.
Okay, I got it. Okay. Okay.
We're just playing.
Okay,
right?
okay. So I will say crowdfunding 25,000.
Okay.
Grants. Now I don't know how much.
What's your total?
So I'm not sure. That's where I'm saying. But I'm
just
gonna
give me a
be
number.
Sure right
Don't
now.
Worry about it.
So
yeah,
now I gotta
be
do
sure
quick
right
math.
now.
Let's see. So let's say 25 again, 25,000 in grants.
Is the total?
Oh, total, I'm gonna say let's see, maybe 150,000.
150,000 is the total. Okay, so we've got
So I'm
25 for
25
crowdfunding.
all the way down. So then corporate sponsorship, I'll say, is number 3, another 25,000.
What was number 2? Oh, grants.
Yeah, 125,000.
Grants was 125, and then corporate sponsorship 25.
Right.
Okay, what's the topic of your film, Yvette?
This is another issue. I have like 2 projects. I'm not sure which one to go with first. And also, I need some guidance. I'm probably gonna have to work with you, Joanne, because I need
oh my God.
Help. I really do, because I'm a screenwriter. I write, narrative, I write films, but I have a documentary. I'm thinking.
You don't have to make a documentary necessarily, but give me some idea of a topic.
Well,
one
is a civil rights leader who actually had women who, he was a pastor, but he had some women who in his church who actually got him involved in the movement. And it's a great story.
Great story.
It's based on a true story. So I want to develop it. And
where is the civil rights leader based?
In New York City.
Okay. Felicia is making a documentary about a civil rights leader.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. It's actually her step-grandfather in South Carolina. It's a South Carolina story. Mm-hmm. But so when I was saying, so somebody tells me a project and I start seeing over here, I start seeing the income, right? So the reason I'm asking questions is because, oh, it's a civil rights story. Oh, it's a historic. Oh, it's New York. Oh, all of these things are fundraisable, if that makes sense. Right? So the topic of civil rights is fundraisable, history, New York. New York's a very well-funded place, for the arts. So all of those things are great. And you could have said a different movie, right? You could have said, oh, it's about kittens in Idaho, right? And then it would be a different set of funding. Okay. I do love it when people start out with a crowdfunding campaign. I just think it's great. It's a great way to practice fundraising. It's a great way to get to learn how to talk about your film. It's a great way to talk about money. I just think there's so many reasons that crowdfunding is a very good way to start, and also it means you only are writing about a page or 2, so it's not too in depth, and it's a very good way to start. And then grants is good, because when you have a topic like that, then that's good for grants. Mm-hmm. And corporate sponsorship you know, as a more minor piece, but definitely, yes. Excellent. Well, welcome. We'll have to work together. Please book a time
Yes,
on
we
my
will.
calendar, Yvette. So
Okay,
who
will
introduced
do.
you? How did you find me?
I'm Nancy Fulton.
Oh, Nancy. Yes, yes, yes.
Nancy
Fabulous.
Fulton.
Fabulous Nancy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I love
She
her.
is great. I love Nancy. I taught a class for Nancy, and she starts her classes at 7 o'clock in California time. So it's 10 o'clock in my time. And I completely didn't figure out the lighting at 10 o'clock.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
kind of sitting in the dark.
On it.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the dark and I couldn't, there was nothing I just hadn't thought about it before.
Right.
It was so funny. So I'm like, I look like I'm like in the shadows.
So we got the message. That's the main thing, you know. It came
Excellent,
through.
excellent.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, Leo. Leo's going to take
yes,
us out.
okay. Let me see. So I'm very narrow-minded, I've learned.
Oh, wow. What a thing to say.
Well, you know, I thought it was all about crowdfunding individuals. And now I understand there's corporate sponsorship, special events, grants. So I've made a note here. I'm not aware of any grants for narrative films, but there must be hundreds of them.
Well, isn't that funny that you should say that? So the San Francisco Arts Commission, I think it is, has a grant every year for $10,000. And I'll tell you, one of the things that is my pet peeves is that, you know, I lived in San Francisco. That's how I know Leo. I used to have a lot of clients in San Francisco. I could never get my clients to apply for that money. And there's a filmmaker in town who is not one of my favorite people. And she gets $10,000 every single year.
Well, I'm going after that money.
Well, you should every single year. Then there's a little organization. I wish Connor were here because he just applied for this. I think it's the Center for Cultural Innovation. And if you're in LA or if you're in San Francisco, you can apply. I think it's $750 for professional development. So, oh, excellent. Thank you. Emily put the grants link in there. But that's $10,000 every year. I've forgotten now when the deadline is, but it should just be on your calendar every year.
Yes. Wow.
Right. You could apply for one of the, you want to, let's say the deadline's tomorrow. You would apply for California Shorts.
Yeah.
Right. But next year when the deadline comes, you apply for something else.
Right. Yes.
Right. And then the Center for Cultural Innovation is for people who live in San Francisco and people who live in LA. I think I recently looked at it with Connor, and it might have been people in California, but it certainly used to just be San Francisco and LA. So that's $750. Now, there's other money that's California. There's the California Humanities grants. There's the California Film something or other. It's starting to fade from my mind, but
yeah, Google it. It's all there.
Google it. There you go. So there's California money, there's San Francisco money, and it's the same for everyone. Well, it doesn't matter where you are. There's some city money, there's some county money, and there's state money. You know, and years ago, I used to work on, what was it called? The Florida. Oh, I can't remember now what it was called. But anyway, I ran a grant, right? I ran a grant program, and it was designed to be a multidisciplinary arts program. So you could be a dancer applying with a filmmaker, or you could be a visual artist applying with a musician, or you could be, so it was a sort of multidisciplinary thing. And it was ultimately funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, the Pew Charitable Trust, the Andrew Walter Hall Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts, right? And so they had this pool of money, and they were doing this all over the country. And they had originally had a Southeast region. So there are grants for the Southeast. There are film grants for the Southeast. And they realized that they were getting 0 applications from Florida. So they broke off Florida and I became the administrator for that particular program. But so there are even regions that are bigger than a state, right? I'm not sure, I'm not thinking of any off the top of my head except the Southeast, but again, all of that kind of money is about supporting artists. You know, when you get to the Andy Warhol Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the NEA, that really has to be the most excellent. But when it's the more local money, they just want to spread the money around amongst the artists and amongst the arts organizations. So I'm not saying you can be crap and apply, but none of you, I'm not trying to suggest that, but I'm just saying that that is more kind of like, how do we spread some money out to support artists and make sure that we have a thriving arts world, right? And then some of you live in better funded places than others. You know, some of you live in one place and have a film in another place. That's the Felicia situation. So you might be able to apply for both. I live here, but the film is here. Paris, go ahead.
Are people using AI to help them with fundraising? Is that a thing now?
I'm sure it is. I haven't particularly used it yet, but I'm sure it is a thing. I'll have to figure it out. I don't actually know the answer to that, but I'm sure, because AI is used for everything. So I've used it for other things, and I really think it's fun to use. I might suggest, for example, like when people write grants, I think they always write them in a very formal way. And I think it would be better to write them in a more personal way, like telling the story of your brother, right? People think they wouldn't think to do that because they're writing some formal thing and this is and we're and they always do that. People always get super formal when they write grants. So I might put that into AI and say, could you lighten this up a little bit? Could you make this friendlier? Could you make this easier to read? Because I'm always recommending that people think about the reader, right? Because I used to be that person. I was a reader for ITVS. I was a reader for this Florida grant. I was a reader for all kinds of different things. Think about the reader. You know, they've got 20 grants they have to get through today, right? How can you make yours more easier for them to read? Think about how to make it easier for them. That's one thing. So when people write this very stiff, very formal, it's hard for a person to connect to that. And then they'll just be, you know, drifting off to sleep and then. So, oh, that's great, Mike. Thank you. Mike, did you play the game? Did we do it with you? Maybe you can't speak. All right, so I'm going to just draw us to a close. So I wasn't quite sure.
Hey, Joanne.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I was on for the beginning, the intro of the game. I did give my numbers, or
you did. Yes, I think you went first, actually. No. Mark went first.
Mark went first. Yeah, right after Mark.
Yep. Yes. Thank you. I think we got everybody right. And Felicia can't talk. So I wasn't quite sure how far we were going to get today, but I knew I wanted to get to stage 2, which was diversify your fundraising portfolio. So I'm sort of imagining at this point, you're still on your own. And so the trick is, how do you get from I'm on my own to having a team, right? So to me, the first thing you have to do is increase the amount you're raising money for. And in this diversifying our portfolio, the other thing that we can start thinking about is, how do I raise money for fundraising? How do I raise money for fundraising? Because people never think about that. But when I went to work for youth radio that trains young people to be broadcast journalists, and the next day I looked at the budget and I saw 0 in their line item for fundraising, I was like, Oops. I needed to know that before I joined the organization. It's a mistake. It's a wrong way of thinking and very, very typical. But how can I raise money for fundraising? If I go to a funder and I ask them to put $100,000 in my movie, what if I ask them for 110 so I can put 10 towards fundraising? What if I go to a foundation and I say, I need to up-level our fundraising. I need to hire a full-time fundraiser. I want 50,000 for that and 50,000 for the movie. So start thinking about, and we're going to get into this tomorrow with stage 3. We're going to look at investing in fundraising. But as you diversify and start to expand, think about asking for fundraising money. Think about adding that to your list of things you need. I need this piece of equipment. I need to hire this person. I need some money for fundraising. To have it just be part of your operation. Money for fundraising, money for fundraising, money for fundraising. And to add some of that into everything that you're doing. And I swear it's just something people don't think about. Now, in some ways, it's because the funders are not thinking about it, but they really are. Funders are thinking about it, and they want to see that. They want to see artists get paid, and they want to see that you're expanding your fundraising operations. The Kresge Foundation is my favorite organization, and they require that you expand your fundraising operations if they're going to give you any money. They require it. So we'll talk about that more tomorrow. And thank you for letting me have so much fun. I love fundraising. I think it's great. I love to see it when you all get more money. So we'll be back tomorrow at 1:30 Eastern time. And we're going to go on with the next 3 stages in expanding your fundraising team. And I want to thank Emily for keeping us all, so I don't have to think about technology while I'm doing it. And thanks for putting all the links in and doing all the research. That's great. So have a great night, rest up, and we'll be back tomorrow. See you then.
Thank you
Bye,
so much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow. Bye.